Final judgment on the matter. Hello, Twitch. Am I streaming? And the Magic 8 Ball says... I'll give it another 5-10 seconds, I guess. This must be quite fun to watch, after the fact. I guess every streamer probably starts with 30 seconds of, I think we're streaming. If not, tell me what they do instead. I don't actually watch any live streamers. Everything I watch happens otherwise. Okay, so I don't know what Twitch is doing. It says I'm live, but there's this huge pop-up telling me that I need to review my video settings. And I can't even see it because it's like off the top of the... There. Jesus, go away. I want to be able to see the... There, yeah. So I am streaming. Twitch is doing its best to make sure that I am trying to stream automatic video quality selection markers. Oh, come on, don't... Why is Twitch doing this? Stop doing this shit, Twitch. Just... Hello, Fmalsbeer. Sorry, you're hearing me rant at Twitch. But for some reason, it's got this popover where it just, like, literally covers the entire video preview with a goddamn mask. I can barely see that I'm live. Well, whatever. We'll leave Twitch to its idiocy, and instead we'll try and use what it's good at, and that is hopefully streaming, so I'm presuming everybody can hear me. I spent a lot of the week working on spaceplane stuff. It didn't actually work out very well. Some of the modules look good, but the overall spaceplane look, I couldn't get it, because this is all these linear modules stuck together, and it ends up looking very, very rigid and straight. But I came up with a lot of cool ideas as to how to do it better, and I might do those later. First, however, we've got to work on getting the crisis thing functional. In case you don't remember what the crisis thing is, we have this situation where people go stress-crazed and break shit. And what we do is we pause the game. And then the question was, what do we do once the game is paused? Well, the number one thing we have to do, Soup of Can says that the stream is fine, so that's good. The number one thing we have to do is allow the player to click on things, with the assumption that later we might use a different technique other than clicking. For example, it might be walking up to things when you have control of the character or whatever. So we're going to be developing a click engine that allows us to click on various rooms and people, like click, 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 without having it tied too tightly to what we're actually trying to pull off. And if you don't remember, this is our invisible ship and our invisible materials, and that's because we generate all the meshes and the materials on the fly. So when you save them as a prefab, it does not work out. We'll deal with that some other time. For now, we're just going to use this as a click thing. One of the problems with this prefab is that these characters here do not have any sort of colliders. The default characters don't have any colliders because they're not intended to move yet. But in turn, that means you can't click on them because there's no point of click. So what we're going to have to do is go back out to our construction and put in those prefabs. Human alpha crew, here it is, drop it in. And add in a cylinder collider so that we don't have that problem. I've got the hiccups. I was running around, doing a lot of stuff, trying to get home by 3:30, and I made it, but it sure was a little wheeze-inducing, So the question is, where do we put the collider? I think our best bet is to go ahead and just stick it on the social brain, since this already exists as its own thing. There's our capsule collider, and as you can see, it's definitely not in the right spot. Let's go ahead and make this larger. No, that wasn't it. Okay, apparently numlock isn't on. There we are. And its height will be... Okay, so that's the right axis. That's good. And we'll just move it like so. And increase the height some more. Now we have a couple of things we can do. When this becomes something that we walk around on, like this could be our capsule collider for walking, there is the question of it lining up perfectly with the floor. So because of that, most of the time when you create these gliders, you'll want your Y offset to be exactly half of your height. If we make our height 16, then we want our offset to be 8. That way it's lined up perfectly with 0. Problem with that, of course, is that our characters are not all the same height, and they're not moving. So we can play fast and loose. It doesn't really matter. Let's move this up to 8.5, just in case we have a taller character. And for now, that should be fine. So what we'll be able to do is click on this collider, and rather detect raycasts against this collider, and that will allow us to click on characters. The hard part here is that all of these things are on different layers, so we're going to have to know which layer is which. The interior layer has to be checked after the personnel layer, because you want to be able to click on people, and if you're not clicking on a person, then you're probably trying to click on a room. But if you check for rooms first, well, the people are within the rooms, and you'll end up clicking on the rooms, and never the people. So that's our goal. We're going to make it so that we check a couple of different layers, and all of that stuff will work out in the end. Unfortunately, the saved version will not have those characters, so we're going to have to go ahead and load it up fresh, because the prefab doesn't have nested saves, or nested, it doesn't have nested prefabs. So our saved prefab will not update when we change those prefabs. But it should work fine here in the new spawned-in version. So these have all been saved using a different technique. So if we click on characters in this mode, like you, for example, we should be able to see right away that there is a collider. See? There's the collider. I don't know if you can see that very well on YouTube, but there's a capsule collider exactly where I put it. In turn, that means that any ship we create from here on out, all of the crew will have capsule colliders, and they'll work fine. Any ship that we saved as a prefab, by dragging it down into our prefab menu, won't work. And it will still be broken, because these ships are not great at handling that sort of situation. But there is one thing that I can do to make this a lot easier on myself. We're going to go ahead and make it so that instead of saving the ship as a prefab, we're going to save the ship as a string. And then we're going to load it from a string. That way, every time that we have a prototype ship or a demo ship, it won't load up with all that red, all that violent pink skin and missing meshes, because we'll generate all of that stuff on the fly. Evil Luigi says, "Hi Craig, let's see whether or not I have to restart Firefox." My guess, yes. I've had some really bad luck with Firefox recently, especially on mobile. Alright, so what we are doing is we are modifying the Delta system, which I believe is under ships. Is it under ships? Yeah, here it is. This Delta serializer is responsible for serializing and deserializing the objects. On Sunday, when I tried to do it then, we had the problem where the serialization was so long that it got truncated by the inspector. So what we're going to do is, instead of trying to copy it from the inspector, we're just going to paste it straight into the ship's field. So let's go ahead and do exactly that. We've got a couple of menu items here. Test deserialized, deserialized object. See that? What we're going to do is we're going to make this serialized to JSON get put into our test serialization. So our test deserialized text equals this. And by unifying that, we now have this saved in our object, rather than just spat out and truncated. Evil Luigi says he has 500 tabs open. I don't have that. I don't even have that many on my mobile device. I've only got one tab, and it's just like Twitter and Firefox are at a war to try and make themselves crash. So if we go ahead and load up the monkey bars, boom, in, there we go. What we can do is we can take this ship. Let's go ahead and pause the game. Well, let's not even pause it. Let's just move over to the scene view here. We can take this ship down here, and we can take a look at the ship script. This is a Delta serializer, and here is the test deserialized text. Right now, it's got this in it, but what we're going to do is tell this ship to, after I unselect that, because that would probably overwrite anything we were doing in the script, we're going to tell this to serialize to JSON. And you can see that what happened is it says optimized GUI block text buffer too large, not appending further text. String too long for text mesh generator, cutting off characters. Now here's the thing, I don't actually know whether that means that it's intact or not. But we can test that out by simply saying deserialize. Nope, it didn't. So if we try and write something that's too long for the inspector, it gets angry at us. So here's the question. What can we do to not show that test deserialize? Well, we can just say hide it in the inspector. So if we take this test deserialization, where is that string? Oh, it's in the debug section, not the serialization section. So let's just do a search for menu items. There it is. So this is the public. We're going to go ahead and have another one. Public string long ass deserialization text equals, there we are. And we'll just say go ahead to hide in inspector. And let's put in some comments here. The long ass deserialization text is because the inspector doesn't really know how to handle pages and pages of text, even if we make it multi-line. So we'll just hide it. Malsbeer says, could you copy it to the clipboard or have an editor window that displays the JSON text? The editor window, as I just showed, wouldn't work because the text is too long. It gets auto-truncated by Unity's core display functions. Copying it to the clipboard might work. I'm not actually sure whether or not I know how, but even if I printed it to the clipboard, I couldn't paste it into the ship because, again, Unity won't accept that much text. So I've got to go ahead and make it all happen outside of Unity's inspector view. Supofcan says, EvaLuigi, you have all of those tabs open at once? And EvaLuigi says, yep. That's the one thing I like about Firefox. Although EvaLuigi claims that he has all of those tabs open at once, Firefox only loads them when you actually go to them. So they're all passive in the background until you go over and click on them. Chrome still loads all of your tabs at once. So if you're a real tab hound, Firefox is still better. Now, what we're going to do is we are going to put in tooltips here. Leave empty or as long. Leave empty unless you are doing something obvious. Simple. Testing something simple. There. So what we'll do is down here, instead of the test deserialized text, we'll use the long ass deserialized text, like so. But over here, when we deserialize this text deserialized text, we're actually going to check it. So if test deserialized text equals or test deserialized text equals long, then we want to deserialize the long-ass deserialized text, else deserialize the test deserialized text. And that's kind of a clunky way to do it. It's evolved. These are debug things, so I'm not too worried about it. But we'll keep our eye on it and make sure that it doesn't go horribly wrong. First off, let's go ahead and change that here. Test to deserialize text equals long. Supofcan says, can't you just use bookmarks? Much neater. Yeah, that's a flow break, Supofcan, when you have to move tabs into bookmarks and then pull them back out of bookmarks. So it's a little hard to get used to and a little hard to use properly. So here we've got our long system, and we've just changed it so that we should be able to deserialize and serialize to a hidden field. Now, hopefully that hidden field will then work, and we won't have to worry about the fact that it's a lot of text. So to do that, we're going to go ahead and select the monkey bars, and then we're going to click on this serialize to JSON, and we can see that there are no errors here. So it's just the Unity display that can't handle the long long text. Did I test it? No, wait, that's correct. See? Test long. So what we'll do now is we will copy this into our prefabs right here. We got the sample ship monkey bars. We're going to be going and overriding that with this. So sample ship monkey bars. Drop it in. Replace anyway. Boom. So now that we've saved the sample ship monkey bars, if we drag it into the world, you can see that it doesn't exist. However, we have the long text that specifies what the ship is. So if we go over into our other part, this one here, this ship here is the same problem, right? But what we can do is we can revert the sample ship monkey bars to the one in the prototype here. I guess we have to just pull it out again. That's fine. And you can see that it's got this error, right? What we'll do is we'll check this debug ship, right? And then we'll go into the ship. That was the Delta serializer, and now we're going to go into the ship, which is a descendant of the Delta serializer. And what we're going to do is when it boots up, we are going to say that if it is a debug ship, it needs to deserialize. And that way, what should happen is it'll clear out all of this junk, and instead, it will just work. I think. Let's try it out. However, there might be a problem with it thinking that it thought all those parts already existed. So what we're going to do is delete all of the parts inside of this object. Because I think that what's happening is it's thinking that these already exist and it's getting confused. So, kaboom! And we'll save that. There we go. Perfect. And everything is intact. Everything works. Am I good? I am pretty good. The problem is that Unity doesn't like text that is, you know, Odyssey level long. And instead what you do is you are careful to try and make this work behind Unity's back. Because Unity physically can't display it and physically can't take it. So instead we just leave it to C#. And Unity never even sees it. Now you can see that it says time blah. That's because we're currently in a time pause. We have an event happening. And if you remember, what we have is this thing called a scenario. And when the scenario takes control, it pauses the universe. Since the scenario already exists inside the game world, what happens is it starts with control and the universe never even gets one tick. If we disable the scenario, you can see that the universe starts ticking again. And that will go through and start to break stuff just like it used to in the good old days of last week. Yeah, that's great. And then if we turn it back on, boom, it pauses. Because the scenario is now in control. So there are a number of things that we have to do here. But the very first thing we have to do is make stuff clickable. And that was what all of this was leading up to. So if we were to look at these characters, they should all be clickable. If we take a look inside of our social brain, there is that green pillar that is a collider. And we should be able to collide with it. The only problem is we have to know what the layer number is. So if we were to go into our layer list, these are the layer tags. Unfortunately, they don't tell you what the individual values are, but I think that you can just count. So this would be the first digit, second digit, third digit, fourth digit, fifth digit, sixth digit, seventh digit, eighth digit, ninth digit, 10th digit, 11th digit, and so on. If we're looking at the personnel, we're looking at the 13th digit. So that's 2 raised to the 13th power in theory. So let's try that out. 2 to the 13th. 8,192. Not actually sure that that is correct, but maybe it is. We'll have to try it out. So what we're going to do is we're going to have a scenario check here. We're probably going to move this into another object later, but for now, we're going to have this scenario handle the checking. Override, public override. There's no override because it's not actually a thing, is it? It's not a player controller, so we might change it to one later. But for now, we'll just do a public void update. And we will do a mouse position raycast. Basic stuff, basic stuff. So ray equals camera.main. Screen coordinate to ray, and pass it the mouse pointer. So input.mouse position. We have raycast hit, and then we say if physics.raycast ray out hit, then we've hit something, and we can just say debug.log hit.transform.name. So that will tell us when we have hit anything, right? So if we take a look down here, grind, we do have a loading bug, which we'll have to resolve later, but that's fine. It shouldn't affect this. See that bug? That's not what I want. That's fine. So if we then clear this and mouse in, it's not... It's not doing anything. Else debug.log you hit nothing. Grind. There we are. So it's not saying that I hit nothing, and that means that that's not running, which probably means I have a spelling error. Public void update. Well, here we are in the scenario. Here's the scenario. Did I edit the wrong? I edited the wrong thing. This is a scenario event, you idiot. You brain dead moron. This is the scenario. Much better. It is a player control, and that makes a lot more sense. I was a little bit surprised it wasn't. So this will be override control update. And paste it in. So one of the things that we can do that we're not doing right now is we can check and make sure that the mouse isn't currently over a UI element. That's built right into the player control. And it's called clicked, or mouse on UI is what we'll need if we're just doing it in general. So we're going to say if mouse on UI, then return false. So if we're on top of a UI element, we are not going to be able to click through. And that's basic safety. You always want to use that. If you have any curiosity and want to know how mouse on UI works, it's a very simple trick. unityengine.eventsystems.eventSystem.current.isPointerOverGameObject. So this is the line that you need to memorize. Is pointer over game object. Because the game objects are very specifically part of the event system, and therefore only include 2D game objects. So you can tell whether or not you're on top of a UI element. There are some UI elements that count as being on top of them, even when they're transparent, but you'll get the hang of it. Oh. Here we go. So if we take a look here, it says you hit nothing, and then it says airlock, HabX junction, Hab bathroom. See? So it's detecting the rooms, because the rooms are the largest things with colliders. But of course, we're actually detecting the exterior. We're detecting things like the nuclear reactor. We're not even detecting the interior rooms. So we've got to limit our adventures to a specific layer. If we take a look here, we can choose which layer we're going to go ahead and use just by selecting one of these functions. However, we have to take a care because max distance and layer mask are kind of really tightly bound up. So for example, here is one, ray out, max distance, and layer mask. So that might be the one we have to use. I'm not sure if there's one without a max distance. No, it doesn't look like there's any without a max distance here. But query trigger interaction, that's not something I've ever seen before. I'm going to look that up real quick. Unity query trigger interaction. Oh, so that'll, like, if you raycast and hit something, you're allowed to make it count as if you had hit them. Interesting. That's cool. You can actually set off triggers manually. That's great. I'll have to remember that. We don't need it now, though. So what we're going to do is we're going to give it a max distance of, I don't know, 1,000,000. And then we'll go ahead and give it the layer mask that we set up, which is, in theory, 8192. But I am not at all sure that that is true. We are going to have to test it and find out. Grind, grind, grind. Clear. Hit nothing, hit nothing. Hit nothing, hit nothing. Okay, so it looks like that layer is not the correct layer. That's interesting. What are they doing for the layers then, if that's not how they work? They should really show us the number of these layers so that we can use the tags correctly. Let me go ahead and look it up. Unity layer mask map. Layer mask allows you to display the layer mask pop-up menu in the inspector. Similar to culling mask, layer masks can be used to filter game objects. Converts a layer mask to an integer value. Static functions get mask. Layer to name. Name to layer. Oh, okay, so there is actually a function for just doing it. I guess that's what we'll do. Int layer equals layer mask dot name to layer personnel. I think that's how I can't, that can't be right? Personnel. There we are. Perfect. And we'll just pass it in the layer. Shaboom! I don't know what that layer value is, but I'm never going to have to worry about calculating again if this works. We'll just go ahead and let Unity do all the work. And that's how Unity works best, when you sit back and let Unity do all the work. Clear. You hit nothing. I'm still hitting nothing, even though I'm clearly on top of the character. Well, let's make it interior instead. And let's, come on, paste. Oh, I can't paste all of a sudden? Oh, I hate when that happens. Such bullshit. It's the only bug that's in this particular version of Mono developed that is particularly egregious. Alright, then we're going to go ahead and debug.log. Layer is layer, just to check it out. Then we'll go over to our game, hit play. For maximal raycast distance, you can use mathf.infinity. That's a good point. Good call. I will do that. I'm not going to save it yet, though, because I'd have to recompile if we did that. Alright, so if we take a look, it says layer is 9. Okay, so that's not giving us a layer mask. That's giving us a layer ID. Get mask. Get a set of layer names as defined by and returns the equivalent layer mask. Okay, so let's try that. Layer mask dot get mask. Layer names. Okay. This seems like it's not going to work. I can't use old JSON formats here. I need to type in new string array, right? I guess I have to do that instead. Cannot convert string to int. Where? Cannot convert. Get mask shouldn't be reverting string, right? Get mask static int. So interiors, is this trying to get, it said to take us a string, right? Yeah, string of layer names. So where is this error happening? Am I doing something wrong? Do I have to put like parens or something? Maybe I just don't remember how to initialize a string in C#. I wouldn't be surprised. It's a very primitive thing to have to remember. So 33. No, that's not it. 40. Okay, so this is just wrong. I'm just doing something stupid. Do I have to do this? Oh. Am I just completely misremembering how to define a string in C#? I am super brilliant, guys. You have to remember that. C#, string array. I do a lot of languages, and I can't remember jack shit. So it is just me being dumb. This is actually the number. It is long. And then I have to open it up to give it specific values, don't I? Do I use curly brackets? Yeah, curly brackets. Okay, so. Like that. Gosh, that is... Just use JSON. Oh well. Much better. All right. Let's go ahead and put this inside of here. No reason to have it separate like that. Don't worry, we'll be saving these layer masks. We won't be reestablishing an array every single time. That would be really dumb. But we do need to make sure it works before we optimize it. Otherwise, we're just stupid. Supifcan to the rescue, but my lookups are just as fast as his, so that's helpful. Haberoom rooms collider. Good. So that is correct. That is how we do it. If we're going to get the rooms here. So what we're going to do is have a protected int interiors are layer mask interior, layer mask personnel. And down here what we're going to do is we're going to say if layer mask interior equals 0, I guess we'll start it off by equaling 0 then. We'll set them up so that they work properly, and that is done by setting them equal to this layer mask. Layer mask interior equals that, and then of course we do the same thing for our layer mask personnel, but with personnel. And what we'll do is we'll just leave a little comment here. Creating an array, creating 2 arrays of strings every frame would be dumb. So only do it once. And then what we'll do here is we'll say layer mask personnel. Uh-oh, I'm already getting hungry. I didn't have much of a lunch, guys. Evil Luigi's talking about Firefox's upcoming add-on system, which I know nothing about. If it makes any of my add-ons not work anymore, including Privacy Badger and Adblock and any of those other sorts of things, I'll just switch to Chrome. I actually use Chrome a lot anyway. I decided I would go ahead and put all of Google stuff on Google stuff, so when I'm logged into Google, I'm using Chrome, and I only look at my email and Twitch. Everything else happens while I'm logged out and using a third-party cookie blocker and a third-party blocker in general. Okay, so we worked fine. We went and detected it right here, social brain, that's what we wanted to see. And that means that we are detecting that we are encountering the characters. So what we're going to want to do is have another else if against the other layer here. So this will be layer mask interior. And then we'll have an else. You hit nothing. So here we'll just say debug.log. Here we can say hit.transform.parent.name. And then here we can say hit.transform.name. And that will allow us to room. And then here we're going to say person. We're just in the process of making this work out. There are obviously a lot of things going on here that are in their infancy, and we're going to have to think about it a lot. Yeah, I agree, Evil Luigi. If they break any of the major plugins, then people will just switch to a browser where those plugins still work. Person, Human Alpha Crew, rooms, room collider, hab rooms. Not all of these rooms seem to have proper colliders. You hit nothing. Hab room, room collider. So it looks like the only rooms where they have colliders are the rooms. These guys. So just to use my mouse to point that out, these rooms over here are all technically rooms, but they don't have interior colliders because I never set them up. So you can't click on them. There's nothing to click on. I could fall back on the ship scale stuff and have it so that when you click on the ship scale stuff, you will get the interior stuff. And in that case, what would happen is I would end up clicking on the rooms, but there's no guarantee that I would be clicking on the right room. Because, for example, if I were to go over here and try and click on this barely seen little headquarter area, I would actually be clicking on the airlock because the 3D shape for the airlock, and therefore the actual collider for the airlock, includes the outer hull, even though it's hidden in this case. Now, the ideal solution for me would be to go in and put all of those colliders into these rooms so that we could click on the rooms. Another option is I could use a better highlighter so that when you mouse over a given room, it highlights it, so that way at least you can see that you've highlighted the wrong room. But I think that the real solution here is that we want to have it with interior colliders. We'll set up all of these rooms to have interior colliders. They're basically free, so whatever. All right, I think I forgot to post to Twitch. I did. I forgot to post to Twitch, I think. Streaming game dev, doing some UI stuff, then gonna build some spaceships until I get Hungary. Paste in my Twitch address. Right. So right now what I want to do is I want to make it so that when we click on these guys, whether it's a room or a person, I want them to get selected and have something happen. Now what is that going to actually do? Well, right now we've got two categories of things. We've got rooms, interior rooms of some kind, and we've got people. So we're going to go ahead and create two functions to catch that stuff. Public void click, and then click person, and then we'll go ahead and just say click, and then we'll say social brain target, and then we'll have public void click game object target, and that way we'll automatically call the correct thing. So right here, when we click on something, what we're going to want to do is actually make it so that clicks pass it over to that room. So if click, so if we take a look here, there's a bunch of things. Clicked is what we're looking to do. Clicked will check a couple of details. It'll check whether we got a mouse on UI as well. We already know we do not have a mouse on UI, so double checking that is no big deal. But this will also allow me to later on make this game, allow for non-click clicks for people that are using, I don't know, VR, who knows. So we'll go ahead and just say that. We say click, hit, dot transform dot get component social brain. There you go. And then down here we'll do the same thing. If clicked, then click, and we just pass it hit dot transform dot game object. So here we're going to go ahead and say if target equals null, debug.log error, there is a personnel collider that doesn't have a social brain on it. I'll go ahead and delete these, don't need them anymore. Layer masks are just bit masks. Here's the 32 layers. You can just fetch one with the array of the 2 strings. Yeah, Supercan, I think you're behind the times on that particular call, because that's what I was agonizing over 45 minutes ago. The problem is that the layer mask is not in the order that the layers are listed. So I can't mathematically figure it out based on what I can see in the layers menu. I have to use the layer mask function here. The layer mask class has a bunch of static functions on it that can help you out. Unfortunately, calling those functions requires you to create a new array of strings, so I only wanted to do it once. I really didn't want to do it every frame. Return. What we're going to do now is if we've clicked on a person, then we want to hear about what they've broken. So what we're going to do is we're going to look into our participants here. So we have events and participants. So let's look through our events and see what's up. So for each social event, no, it's not called a social event, it's called a scenario event. Yeah. Eve in events. If Eve dot cause equals target, that's us. Click Eve. And then we're going to add another click in. More clicks. An infinite number of clicks. Public void click. Social event. Oh, no. Scenario event. If. And then what we can do is have them say something. So we can say ev.target.say. Can they say? No, I have to go up to the avatar. No, ev.cause dot say. No, ev.cause.avatar.say. And then we can say what they broke. I broke the, and then ev.target.name. Right? Sounds good to me. Let's try it out. Boom. Everything's been recompiled and regenerated, and I can click on characters, like you. You hit nothing. Well, I didn't hit nothing. I definitely hit something, but for some reason, it's not working. For some reason, our universe cam on a stick is really bad in this particular game. I think it might be because it's actually not initialized properly. So let's take a look at the universe cam on a stick and see whether I can get a slightly better angle on things. So if we take this universe cam on a stick here, it is oriented. Thank you. Where are the cameras? Oh, it's invisible for some reason. That's... Did I turn off gizmos? No, they're on. They're just tiny, I guess. Yeah, they were just tiny. Much better. Okay. Oh, by the way, do any of you know why it stopped showing the camera preview down here in the corner? Is there something with that? Is that like something I can re-enable? Because I really need that. And I don't know why they stopped doing it, but it's dumb. They should put it back in. Alright, good. So I can move the camera around, then it just changes the angle. That is fine. So, unfortunately, it's not close enough for me to see the characters, so we're going to actually bring the ship cam in. Just totally hacking it. This is not how you should do it. That's close enough, but it needs to be brought backwards, so we'll just drag the whole thing this way. Alright, now we can see the characters at least. But it looks like clicking on them doesn't do anything. Oh good, my landlady is upstairs moving things, so you'll get to hear the sound of 1,000 furnitures being thrown around. Supafgan has an answer. Select the camera you want to preview from, look at the inspector, expanding the rollout of the section camera toggles the preview window at the bottom right? Seriously? Oh my gosh! Thank you so much. That helps a ton. It doesn't make any sense, but it helps a ton. So now that I know that, I will be able to see what I'm doing again. Won't that be great? Thank you. That was really helpful. Now, what was I doing? I was wondering why things weren't getting clicked on properly. So I know that we're not getting here, because if we were, we would get a debug log that said we hit nothing. So instead we're going to say debug log clicked on target.name. And then here we're going to say debug.log ev.cause.avatar.firstname. Let's broke the eve.target.name. Sounds good. Let's try it out and see where we're going awry, because we should be able to see when we are clicking and something is happening. Clickety, clickety, clickety. It's not working. Clicked on Hab Rooms Collider. So I can click on the rooms just fine. I just can't click on the people. And I don't know why that is. The you hit nothing counter isn't increasing, so we are on something. But for some reason, it's not clicking properly. So here we should see this click hit.transform.getComponent social brain. But if we get to this click, it should say something. So if the target is null, it should give us a log error. Oh, because there's no scenario with those characters. Idiot. Right. I forgot that I was manually setting up this scenario, and I had changed the ship out. These no longer exist. However, I actually can't make them exist because the characters don't exist. Like, they just don't. So what I have to do is actually fill this in by dragging and dropping once we're in play mode. So we'll hit play. Pause the game. If we go over and we take a look at our characters here. Hello, how are you doing? Let's grab the easiest one to click on, which is this person in front here. And we will just go ahead and select their social brain. But we're going to need to, I think, freeze here. Click. So that we can do this without getting in any sort of annoying issues. So we'll drag the social brain down into the cause. No? You don't like that? This is the social brain. Is it because we're paused? That doesn't make any sense. No? Why is it not? Well, maybe I can drag the social brain on like this. No? This is odd. Why is it not working? Well, can I assign the target? No, I can't drag onto it at all. What's going on here? For some reason, during play mode, I can't manually edit this setup. Evil Luigi says, didn't you just lock it? Yeah, I just locked it on the inspector so that I would be able to see it over here. I didn't lock the whole object. I didn't freeze it. I don't think that's even possible to do. You see, if I unlock it, it just switches over to showing the same object, and I was trying to drag one object onto the other, which is why I set this up. But I don't believe that that will make a difference. We can check. No, it doesn't make a difference. Locking is just a UI thing. It's not a drag and drop thing. The question is why these can't be fussed with. It's actually saying that there's no social brains in the scene. Is that because the social brain doesn't have an on-off switch? Is this something where I can only drag objects that have an on-off switch? That'll be dumb. All right, let's try it. It's a Delta serializer. There, now do you have an on-off switch? Social brains? You should. Tikure95 says, hey, how's it going? Somewhat. I'm trying to figure out why I can't drag things onto things, which is not a fun problem to have. So we go back into scene view, and we select one of these characters again. Here's our social brain, which has a social brain on it. We look over here in the inspector. The social brain still can't be ticked. Apparently awake isn't one of the functions that makes that happen. We can just go ahead and add in an update just for testing purposes. Now, Eva Luigi says maybe it's in the wrong scene. That's not completely impossible because this is in the Don't Destroy on Load subscene, which in theory could introduce some problems. But I've never seen those kinds of problems before. And now that I can turn the social brain on and off and it's still not working, presumably that is not what is preventing it. So maybe it is because it's in the Don't Destroy on Load. Let's copy it over into the... No, I can't undestroy on load. Can I copy the scenario down? No. I honestly don't know why I can't drag and drop edit this shit. That makes it real hard to do this because it means I'm going to have to do the whole event system, the whole scenario system without ever being able to test it, which sounds really dumb. Well, for now, let's go ahead and make this just have a couple of basics here. No click found, no click interaction primed for target.avatar.firstname. Famalsbeer says you probably can't interlink between scenes. That's the thing. The different quote-unquote scene is just that it's in the same scene, but in the Don't Destroy on Load. And apparently Don't Destroy on Load is enough to make it have some problems, which is dumb. But I mean, I can solve that. I can, because I can go into our awake, and wherever I say Don't Destroy on Load, what we can do is put this into here. And that way, if it is a debug ship, it won't be not destroyed on load. This is dumb. Let's see whether or not that's the problem. If so, their Don't Destroy on Load is actively working against the basic idea of drag and drop, which seems like a dumb way to do it. I really hope this isn't the solution because that's really dumb. Oh my god. That is the solution and it's really dumb. Well, thank you for your suggestion, Eva Luigi. You solved it, and yeah, that's dumb. Sorry, I'm actually really, really upset by that. Because I know that I can do that in code. The fact that I can't drag and drop because of that is mind-boggling. Tikure95 says, do you have Patreon? Nope. My day job is solid, so I'm not too worried. Obviously, having a day job means that I don't have very much time to work on this, which is why you'll only see me twice a week. But I much prefer to have the security of a day job. Thanks for your kind thoughts, though. Right. Let's break something, like this nuclear reactor! Oh no, we broke the nuclear reactor! So now, if we go over into our scene view, game view, here it is, and we click on that character, I broke the nuclear reactor. See? Now that looks like it's coming from this character here, but it's actually coming from that little model. So we might have to work with that a little bit in the long run. But you can see that every time I click on her, she tells us what she did. And if I do click, it says no click interaction primed for Alice. Let's go ahead and have Alice tell us that, rather than just having a debug line. So if I go over here into the scenario, rather than no click interaction primed for, what we're going to do is we're going to say target.avatar.say what's up. Oh man, I'm old. What's up? There we go. If Malsbeer says, looks like they changed the Don't Destroy Unload in the Scene Manager update. They sure did, and they made it annoying, apparently, which is a real shame. I guess it's okay, because it's only going to affect the Inspector drag and drop stuff, and there's not very many people that are going to be doing that, aside from me. But that is just really, really bad. So there we go. We now have the characters either saying what's up, or telling us what they did, if they did something wrong. Notice that this character now says what's up. That's because, as I said, this is all runtime crap. I would have to re-drag that character down into our scenario in order to do that I broke thing again. So what we need to do is have something that populates this scenario with things that the people broke, instead of just having one floating around for no reason. So that is a matter for probably the big question here is, where do we put the scenario prefab? Do we have one just floating around in the game world? Do we have a prefab? I think a prefab is best, because then later on we could have different prefabs for different kinds of scenarios. Where do we stick it? Do we stick it into the universe, or do we have our very own like scenario universe thing? For now, I think it'll be okay if we stick it in the universe, so let's just do that. We'll open up the universe here, and we will go in and add a new value for our prefab here. So we've got a bunch of statics. Let's get past the statics. Here we have a bunch of stuff that isn't static. So we've got the dialogue balloon, the mode master control, the avatar editor, stuff like this. We're going to go ahead and just add to the list public scenario scenario prefab, like so. We're going to actually go ahead and put it in its own little scene area, which I think is best down here. So code, region, scenario management, because we're going to have a lot of stuff that we need to do here. And it's better if it's all in one spot so we don't lose track. Eva Luigi says, maybe we should attach it to the ship so that each ship can have its own scenarios. That's an interesting idea. Right now, I don't see how that would work in terms of, I mean, I know how it would work in terms of it working, you know, we'd have the prefab, but in terms of each ship having unique scenario prefabs, I'm trying to think of how we would differentiate that in any meaningful way. Probably the best way to do it would be to, instead of putting it on the ship, you would put it on the ship component. And when a ship component got broke, it would boot up its own scenario. But in this case, I think it's probably better to put it on the universe, because I can't think of why any given ship would have a different prefab, since they're all using the same mechanism. Later on, we might be able to do that differently, though, and have some overrides in place. I'll keep it in mind for later. So what we're going to do is we're going to have public static. Well, let's go ahead and use the namespace. So what we're going to want to do is probably have a lot of this on the scenario object. Let's go ahead and close some of these errant files. Don't need these open. We're going to go ahead and put in some new static values. So region static crap end region. So for our static crap, we're probably going to want a public scenario, create scenario. And we're going to want to know what sort of things are going on. So there are a couple of ways to do this. One way to do this is to have the characters break the things that they're going to break, and then send over a list of all of the characters that broke the various things via a list of scenario events, i.e. list scenario event events. Right? That would work. But that means that every single character somehow has to come up with that on, when it happens. So what we're going to do instead is we're actually going to create just a list of participants, or a crew. So we're going to have list social brain crew. Now the reason for this is because we can personally put together the events. This is a good way to do it because this allows us to trigger an event of this nature if anyone has an event. So we don't have to wait and have like one event and then 2 seconds later have another event for another person. If anyone is even vaguely in the same range, then what we'll do is we will trigger them all at one time. But in order to do that, we're going to need to create a real scenario, an existing scenario. So scenario live equals universe.prefab scenario. I did create this, right? Did I not save it yet? Scenario prefab. So we're going to say if not universe.scenario prefab debug.log error the universe. Oh, that's not even right because that's like if not. Sorry, that I'm treating it as a static variable and it's not. If not universe.live or not universe.live.scenario prefab, the universe doesn't exist or doesn't have a scenario prefab. Return null. Otherwise, we're just going to create that. Close your brackets properly. So we'll say prefab scenario live equals universe.live.scenario prefab. So we'll just say scenario.instantiate that. Perfect. That's going to spawn into the game world just as it is, and since they live on their own, that we don't need to worry about whose parent is whose. But we are going to want to make sure that the scenario has a list of various crew members and stuff like that. So first, let's go ahead and set up the participants. For now, we're just going to go ahead and reduce number of participants. For now, we're just going to make the crew participate, all of the crew. Later on, we're going to go ahead and reduce that so that if you have a crew of 50, you don't have 50 participants, and 40 of your crew members will be off doing random crap and you won't have to worry about them. So for that to happen, we're just going to say for each social brain C in crew live.participants.add C. Well, we shouldn't say reduce, we should say moderate, because we may be turning red shirts into temporary crew members if we need to. So once we've done that, we need to understand which crew members are over our stress limit. So for each social C in crew, figure out which members are over the stress limit and stress break them. If C.stress, you see we can't even say that. That's because it's not social, it's social brain. You're an idiot. I am so smart. SMRT. So here we just say C.stress. There we are. So if we say if stress is greater than or equal to C.stress stress threshold, here it is, times 0.75. Breaking. Lump it in. Now, if we have this, then this means that these characters need to break something. So how are we going to do this? Well, first we're going to need to create a new scenario event. But as you can see, we need to actually construct it with the cause and the target in mind. Well, the cause is C, but we don't have the target yet, so let's go ahead and work that out. So if we say C.break, stress break, you see how it returns a null? So what we're going to instead do is ask it to return a scenario event. Pretty easy, right? So what we're going to do is here, we'll just say C.break. Of course, in order to do that, instead of being a null, we'll need to have it return a scenario event. Like so. So in order to do that, we're going to want to set it up here. Not a big deal. So here we're going to say scenario event, scenario.scenario event, ev equals new scenario event, this, comma, broken. Return EV. And that should work fine. And that way, we'll have our scenario event, and we can just add it to our list. So we can say live.events.add c.stressbreak. Perfect, right? Now we don't have an avatar yet, but what we can do to get an avatar is just determine who's not stress breaking. Now, in order to do that, we should probably just pick whoever has the least stress. Let's go ahead and do that now. So, float least stress equals 0, or equals crew 0 dot stress. What we're going to do here is we are going to say live.avatar equals crew 0. But right now we don't have a test to make sure that we have a crew. So if crew.length, if crew.count is less than or equal to 1, debug.log need at least 2 crew to have a scenario. And we'll have to do some kind of checking there if we want to do something different. So we'll cause this to be a log error. And return null. That way we are safe. Congratulations. And what we're going to want to do here is we're going to say if c.stress is less than least stress. Oh, we don't have to say it like that. We can just say live.avatar. If c.stress is less than live.avatar.stress, live.avatar equals c. And down here what we're going to say is if c equals live.avatar, continue. The avatar can't break down. Sarden stopped in. Hello, Sarden. We are working with our crew members to try and make some breakdowns happen. And we are basically done. We've instantiated everything. Everything works. Yep, that's all we needed. So what we're going to do is we're going to create a prefab. Oh, I do, in fact, have to work this out a little better. So this is supposed to be a ship component. It returns something called a component, not a ship component. It returns a ship component. That's odd. I would have expected that to break. Apparently there is something called a component, and it can convert. Oh, that's weird. I'll have to be careful about that. What have you got? Anything else? Not all code paths return a value, of course. Return live. Anything else? Okay, that's good. So what we need to do is make a prefab for our scenario. And to do that, we're just going to drop our scenario into the prefab. Boom. There we go. And then we have a prefab set up. We'll delete this one, and we're going over to the universe. Going to look down into our universe scenario prefab. Drop it in. And that should all be wired up except for one small detail. Currently, we don't actually create any sort of scenarios. This function never gets called, and that's because it didn't exist yesterday. So what we need to do is make it get called. What we're going to do is down here in day pass, we do this stress break. You can see this. If stress is greater than or equal to stress threshold, then stress break. what we're going to want to do instead is have this actually call our stress creation. So social brain, not social brain, what am I talking about? Scenario dot stress break, scenario create, what is it called? Create scenario. Oh, it's not static. There we are. Create scenario. And then we will go ahead and pass it a list of crew. Where are we going to get a list of crew? Well, let's go ahead and try and get that first. So ship equals find component, game object, find component, transform.find component. One of these things. Is it get component? It's get component, isn't it? I'm an idiot. Get component in parent ship. Ship.crew. Manager.crew. Total crew. It doesn't seem to have an easy way to get a list of crew. Well, it's going to. Let's go over to it and find it. So go to declaration. Go to declaration. So we do not currently have a list of all crew or any way to get a list of all crew, which is interesting because the cameras use it. How do the cameras get a list? Oh, they actually get a list of all of the active camera elements, so that's not going to work. We're going to need a separate crew thing. So we have this situation where we can ask for total crew. Here it is. And we just get the slots.count. That's not what we want, so we're going to have to get another kind of situation. So public list, not crew, social brain. Crew. And what we're going to want to do is return the actual number of crew members. So we're going to just go ahead and get them all. It's going to be super straightforward. So we're going to go ahead and get an array if we get it this way. It's not going to be a list, is it? It's going to be an array. That's fine. So we just say get components in children, social brain, true. And that will get us a list of all of the crew members. Of course, it is fatty, so let's put in some comments. Slow, so be careful. Over here in our social brain, we're going to go ahead and get a list of all of the crew members doing that by saying ship dot crew manager dot crew. There we go. And that'll pass it an array. We're going to have to change it to accept arrays, but that's not a big deal. If ship equals null, if not ship, debug.log error. Can't freak out, no ship to freak out on. Else. Now there is one flaw to this, and I don't know whether or not you've noticed it. We're doing this as it comes up, and that means that the first character to break will immediately cause the scenario to happen. This means that any characters that are later on the roster list won't have the stress added to them while the scenario is created. And instead they're going to fire off early and have scenario stress added to them past that. So what we're going to want to do, down here we have been breaking to 0, see? What we're going to want to do is instead is break to the current stress limit. We're going to allow it to go negative. Allow to go negative to avoid race conditions in scenario creation. Perfect. Oh, cool. Look at that. It actually points out the code areas here. Ah, that's a neat trick I never noticed before. Keep my eyes on that. So here in the scenario, we take this list, and we're actually going to be taking an array, like so. I don't believe it changes anything. So who cares? Here we are. All right. We got a count problem. Oh, that's fine. It changes that one word. Perfect. Whew. We ready to give it a shot? Let's give it a shot. So we're stressing out, stressing out, stressing out. Once it hits 10, we'll have something to do about it. Boom! So you notice that the time paused, and we have those error messages. Now if we click on the characters, what's up? What's up? I broke the propellant tank. So it looks like not all of the characters worked out. Let's take a look at our scenario and see what's up. I got 2 of them. It looks like what happened is it created 2 of these. One of which has 1 event and the other which has 3. So it looks like what happened is one of the characters triggered and then didn't work out. But one of the things I just noticed is we've got a lot of flab here. So we're going to have to go ahead and cut some of this nonsense out of here. So this is 0. This is 0. And for some reason, what's happening is it's not actually catching that these crew members need to have their stress broken. And then what's happening is the next one is catching the stress limit. Let's go ahead and just debug.log. Lumping in character c.avatar.name. Then up here, we're going to go ahead and point out that we're actually creating a scenario. Debug.log, creating scenario, stress scenario. And if we see that we're creating stress scenario between 2 of those, we're going to be fine. Let's go ahead and not collapse and try it out. Try it on for size. So if we take a look, one of the things that might be happening is they might actually be below 0.75, but I don't think so, because I think it's like 8 point something. Yeah, they're well above the 0.7 barrier. So if we look here, we don't want this you hit nothing nonsense. I think we can just get rid of that. Added output resources, input resources, because we broke some shit. Okay, so here we go. We're going to take a look. Creating stress scenario. Scenario added to stack. Scenario paused the game. So it actually activates long before we get to tell it what's up, which I guess is okay as long as we are aware of that. Lumping in character Bob. I think that we have... Is that really all? So we got two scenarios here. One of which has 1 person, and one of which has 3 people. There's something screwy going on. Can I pause it? Can I actually tell it to just pause the whole scene when we create a scenario? Application.pause? No. Debug.pause? No. Debug.pauses the editor. We can try it. Normally I'd set up like an actual debug thing, but I actually don't know how to do that with Unity. I've only been using Unity for 3 years. I've never figured it out. It hasn't even, it's like 4 or 5, I guess. Great, so that works. Fun tip, you can just pause the editor. So here's what we've just done. We have told it to fix all this stuff, and what's happened is it has worked through all of its resources. Let's go ahead and get rid of this because there's no reason to just print out all of that crap all of the time. It's just an old debug thing that I don't need. Not counting the it's broken, really? That's fine. Clearing ship resources needs to be, because we broke some things, that's the problem. So we're lumping in character Alice. I guess we have to start over. Did I save this? I think I saved it. Doop 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 doo. All right. So what we should do is break after the first one. But if you see this in the game, you can see that all 4 of them have already begun to talk about what they've broken. So all 4 of them at this stage have broken something, and we have both of our scenarios up and running, even though I told it to break at the end of our scenario. So the break is probably at the end of frame rather than at the end of the function. That's fine. So if we take a look here, it's still saying that we added some resources. We're going to want to get rid of that. Lumping in character Alice. Alice broke. Okay, so it looks like the one that only has 1 happens at the end. Lumping in character Alice. Lumping in character Alice. Bob. So first we break 3 characters, and then at the very end we... My avatar! It's my avatar! Idiot! I had assumed that everyone would have different stress levels. So the lowest stress level should be the avatar, and that would be fine. But if the avatar has the same stress level as the others, and it goes over the limit, the avatar breaks separately and creates a new event. So we are going to have to allow the avatar to break. Okay, so when I said that the avatar couldn't break, the avatar is allowed to break. It's just that generally speaking, the avatar didn't break. Okay, let's try that out. Day passed, day passed, day passed, day passed, day passed, day passed, day passed. Oh, I should take out that break. That's fine. Just hit unpause. Huh, interesting. Stop, I guess? Where did I put that debug break? There it is. Oh, I put it at the end of the update. No wonder it didn't break immediately. I'm just an idiot, that's why. And break. Oh man, they broke the bathroom. Click. I broke a utility arm. I broke another utility arm. I broke a fuel cell. You broke the bathroom, didn't you, Bob? Bob? I broke the bathroom. Yeah. I thought so. You are just not very good, Bob. We need to feed you something different. Alright. So everything is clickable, but there's nothing to do yet, and I am hungry. So I'm thinking about stopping. I could do some 3D modeling. I have some cool new ideas for how to do a space plane. I mentioned this. I made a space plane and it didn't work out so hot, but I learned a lot, and I think I know a better way to do it. But I'm way too hungry to actually do that, so I am going to bow out for the day. I don't think anybody has any questions, but I'll stick around and chat for 5 minutes or so that you can ask any if you see any. Just a little bit longer until this is something vaguely functional, but I really like building ship parts, and that slows me down on this part. Have a good one, everybody.